It was late November 2024. I had just turned 18 and was at the Walden Galleria Mall in Buffalo, doing some early Christmas shopping. I like finishing early, and honestly, the holiday lights and music always put me in a good mood. I had already had a few bags from Victoria's Secret, Zara, and Sephora, gifts for my family, and a few things for myself. After hours of walking, I sat on a bench near the big Christmas tree the mall puts up every year. The crowd was thinning, the lights were dimming, and the whole place was starting to feel calm. Almost too calm. I was sitting on that bench, resting after hours of shopping, when an older man sat down beside me. He looked harmless at first. Thin, gray hair, maybe in his 60s, kind of like a friendly, skinny Santa Claus. He cracked a little joke about how people shop too early, and I laughed to be polite. He said he'd been coming to this mall since it opened and was sad it might shut down soon. Then he told me I looked like his daughter and showed me a picture of her on his phone. The girl looked my age, maybe 18, but there was no resemblance at all. Something about it felt strange, so after a few minutes, I said goodbye and left. I walked quickly to my car and started the drive home. It was late, and I was alone since my brother was out at the University of Buffalo. I live about 10 minutes from the mall, in a quiet cul-de-sac with just a few houses. Everything felt normal until I turned into my street. Right before I pulled into the driveway, a message popped up on my phone. AirTag found, moving with you. My heart dropped. I froze, staring at the screen. I had read stories about people being tracked like this, but I never thought it would happen to me. Instead of pulling into the driveway, I looped around the block, trying to calm down. The alert stayed on my phone. My hands were shaking as I followed the steps to make the AirTag beep. I expected the sound to come from outside the car, but then I heard it. Soft, rhythmic beeping. From one of my shopping bags on the passenger seat. I grabbed the bag, dug through the clothes, and there it was. A white Apple AirTag. My stomach turned. Someone had slipped it into my bag. I rolled down the window and threw it out onto the street, then sped home as fast as I could. When I got there, I rushed inside, locked all the doors, and called my brother Cody. He told me to stay calm and call if anyone showed up. His voice was serious, which only scared me more. I tried to relax in the living room with the TV on, but every sound made me jump. Then the doorbell rang. 3 loud knocks followed. My body froze. A man's muffled voice came through the door saying, "Hey Ashley, I think you might have my AirTag." It was him, the man from the mall. My heart pounded as I realized he must have followed me. He said he probably dropped it in my bag by accident, but his tone didn't sound innocent at all. I backed away from the door, grabbed my phone, and called Cody again. He said he was coming home and told me to call 911. I peeked through the front window, but the man was gone. Or at least I thought he was. A few minutes later, while I was trying to distract myself with the TV, I saw something move outside. I looked, but saw nothing. I told myself it was my imagination. Then I heard a whisper from the window. I love it when they play dumb. My heart stopped. I turned my head, and there he was, his face pressed against the glass, grinning. The same man from the mall. He tapped on the window with his finger and said, "Don't pretend you don't know I'm watching you." I screamed and ran to the hallway, calling Cody again. He yelled that he was almost home and told me to call the police. I hung up, dialed 911, and hid in the office where there were no windows. The man just stood outside the window, watching, waiting. Minutes felt like hours until I heard Cody's car pull into the driveway. He burst through the front door. But when we looked toward the window, the man was gone. The police came and searched the area, but they never found him. There were no footprints, no car, nothing. Just the faint glow of the Christmas lights outside reflecting on the glass. To this day, I don't know what he wanted or how long he'd been planning it. But every time I see an Apple AirTag, I feel that same chill crawl up my spine, because if I hadn't gotten that alert on my phone, I might have never known someone was following me home. The officer who showed up that night searched around, but didn't find a single footprint. Not even a sign that someone had been there. He wasn't too sure about how to report an AirTag case, but he gave me a police report number and told me to contact Apple to see if they could trace the owner. The next day I tried, but it turned out to be a complicated process full of legal steps and paperwork. After a couple of quiet weeks, I started to let it go. Maybe the man saw my brother and the police show up and decided to disappear for good. Still, that picture of the girl on his phone keeps haunting me. Sometimes I can't help but wonder if she was another victim, or worse. I just pray she was some random photo he found online, because if she wasn't, then I might have walked away from something much darker than I could ever imagine. That night changed me. I don't go anywhere without checking my phone now. I don't trust kind smiles from strangers the way I used to. It's like part of my safety vanished with that one AirTag alert. I know it's just a piece of technology, but the truth is, it's also a tool that people can use for evil. And that's what scares me most. My name's Claire. This didn't happen yesterday, but it's still close enough that I can remember every detail. I don't live in that city anymore, which is probably why I finally feel okay talking about it. Back then, I had just moved for a new job promotion. Nothing huge, just a fresh start in a mid-sized city where I didn't know many people yet. I was still figuring things out, still getting used to the quiet nights and unfamiliar streets. It was a normal Tuesday evening, cold but calm, when the first strange thing happened. I was driving home from work, my usual 15-minute commute, listening to a podcast and zoning out after a long day. Then my phone buzzed with a notification, and for some reason, that one little sound would change everything that followed. When that notification popped up on my phone, I didn't think much of it at first. AirTag found moving with you. It sounded random, like a glitch, or maybe someone nearby dropped their keys. I even laughed a little, thinking it was nothing serious. But when I opened it, my heart froze. The app said the AirTag had been moving with me for over an hour. That meant it had been in my car the entire commute, or maybe even before I got in. My hands started shaking. I pulled over, grabbed my phone, and searched everywhere. The back seat, under the seats, the glove box, even the trunk. Nothing. Everything looked perfectly normal. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Someone had planted that AirTag, and whoever it was knew where I was. I tried to stay calm, but it was useless. My heart was racing. Without finding the AirTag, I had no choice but to drive home, even though I knew I might be leading someone straight to my apartment. I told myself I'd deal with it there. Once I got home, I searched my car again, under the mats, the doors, the console. But it was like the thing had vanished. My phone still said it was nearby. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every noise in the apartment made me jump. I kept checking the window, half expecting to see someone outside. The next morning, I forced myself to go to work and pretend everything was normal. But when I parked in the lot, the same alert popped up again. AirTag found moving with you. My stomach dropped. I sat there for a full minute, staring at the screen, feeling sick. It hadn't been a glitch. It was real. I tried to focus at work, but I couldn't. My mind kept going back to that AirTag. Who put it there? How long had they been watching me? By the time I got home that night, I'd had enough. I was done pretending it was nothing. I grabbed a flashlight and spent nearly an hour searching every inch of my car, inside, outside, underneath. Still nothing. I was about to give up when I decided to check the tiny space between the back seat and the seat back one more time. When my fingers brushed against something small and hard, I knew. I pulled it out, and there it was. A white Apple AirTag. I felt sick just looking at it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I took it inside and stared at it on the counter, trying to figure out what to do. I didn't want to destroy it in case it could be used as evidence, but I couldn't stand the idea of it still being active, so I popped the battery out. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about who could have done it. I went through every possibility in my head, coworkers, old friends, exes, but no one fit. No one I knew would do something that creepy. I told myself maybe it was random, maybe someone slipped it in by mistake. But the next evening, everything changed. I came home late, exhausted, and ready for bed. When I reached for my front door, I froze. It was open. Just slightly, but open. I live alone. No one else has a key. My heart started pounding so fast I could barely breathe. I didn't go inside. I backed away, my hands trembling, and ran straight back to my car. I locked the doors and called the police, trying to explain through my shaking voice that someone had broken into my apartment. The dispatcher told me to stay in the car and wait for officers. I sat there staring at my door, praying I wouldn't see anyone walk out. My mind was racing. Whoever had planted that AirTag knew exactly where I lived. They'd been watching me, following me, and now they had been inside my home. Every shadow outside felt alive. Every sound made me jump. The police went through every inch of my apartment, checking doors, windows, and locks, but there was nothing. No fingerprints, no sign of forced entry, no proof that anyone had even been inside. It made no sense. I showed them the AirTag notifications and explained everything that had happened over the last few days. They kept asking if I'd ever been stalked before, or if I knew anyone who might want to hurt me, but I didn't. Couldn't think of a single person who would do something like that. The whole situation felt unreal, like I had stepped into someone else's nightmare. For a while, things went quiet. Maybe whoever it was got scared after the police came, or maybe they just lost interest. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone out there knew exactly where I lived, what car I drove, what time I came home. A few weeks later, I packed my things and moved out. I needed to feel safe again, even if it meant starting over. I don't think that person followed me. I really hope they didn't, but sometimes, late at night, I still think about it. About how easily someone managed to find me, follow me, and even get inside my home. It hit me that safety isn't what we think it is. It's fragile. And once it's gone, you never really get it back. This happened a few years ago, and I need to stay as anonymous as possible for reasons you'll understand soon. I grew up in a quiet, upper-middle-class suburb, the kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked and nothing bad ever seems to happen. But what I went through over the next few months changed the way I saw everything. It wasn't just stressful or scary, it was the kind of experience that completely takes over your life. There were days I'd just lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how things had gotten so out of control. It all started a couple of weeks after I broke up with my first serious girlfriend after college. Let's call her Devin. I won't go into too much detail, but let's just say it didn't end well. She had a temper, and I was honestly relieved when it was over. I thought I was moving on, finally getting some peace, but I had no idea that walking away from that relationship would turn into one of the most terrifying and confusing experiences of my life. I have this friend named Zinan. Weird name, I know, but it fits him. His parents are insanely rich, the kind of people who think money can fix anything. He inherited this massive property from them, even though they're still alive, and for some reason he throws parties there all the time. I don't know why, maybe to feel like he's doing something with his life. Anyway, I was at one of these parties one Friday night, packed with the usual people from our area. People who went off to college, then drifted back home pretending they'd changed. I wasn't expecting anything unusual, just another night of cheap beer, loud music, and small talk. But then I saw Taylor. She was one of my ex's friends, and seeing her there wasn't all that shocking. Zinan's parties had a way of pulling everyone in. What did shock me was how she acted. Taylor had always been nice enough, but distant. That night, she was different. Flirty, aggressive, confident. I thought maybe it was the alcohol talking, or maybe she was trying to make my ex jealous. Either way, it didn't take long for my skepticism to fade. After a few drinks, I stopped questioning it. She was beautiful, and I'm not proud of it, but I gave in. We went upstairs, found an empty room, and things got messy fast. When it was over, she got dressed and left like it meant nothing. I sat there for a few minutes, catching my breath, before realizing my wallet was gone. I checked the bed, the floor, under my clothes. Nothing! I figured I must have dropped it somewhere, so I searched the house. I even tried to call Taylor, but I was still blocked from when my ex Devin and I broke up. I wasn't about to unblock Devin to fix this. So I gave up. I tried not to let it bother me. I had my cards canceled already, and my license could be replaced. But the next morning, when I woke up with a pounding hangover, I remembered something that made my blood run cold. There was an AirTag in my wallet. I'd bought it months ago after losing my keys one too many times. I had grabbed my phone and pulled up the Find My app. The AirTag was active, and it wasn't far. The location showed a local gym about 15 minutes away. I figured Taylor must have gone there. It was Saturday and I had nothing better to do, so I drove over, still nursing a headache but fueled by curiosity. When I got there, I opened the app again, but just as I stepped out of the car, the AirTag went offline. Perfect timing, right? I went inside, asked the receptionist if I could look around, but she wouldn't let me without a membership. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I went back outside and circled the building, peering through the windows like a lunatic. No Taylor. No one I knew. Eventually I gave up and went home. The next day, around noon, I checked again. The AirTag had come back online, this time at a small park nearby. I thought, finally, a lead. I drove there, but as soon as I got out of the car, the same thing happened. It went offline again. The timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. I looked around the park, trying to spot Taylor or anyone from the party, but nothing. Just families, kids, joggers, completely normal. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It crept up on me, this sick unease, like eyes were following me from somewhere I couldn't see. I left, but the feeling stayed with me the whole drive home. That night, I did some research and learned that you could disable an AirTag temporarily by removing the battery, then putting it back in later. It made me sick to think someone might be doing that just to mess with me. A few days went by, and I tried to forget about it. The AirTag stayed offline, and I figured Taylor had either thrown the wallet away or kept it as some twisted trophy. But then, late one night, everything changed. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when the sound of shattering glass jolted me awake. It wasn't subtle. It was loud, sharp, real. For a few seconds, I froze. I couldn't move or breathe. It felt like something heavy was pressing on my chest. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving, through the living room downstairs. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I wanted to grab something, anything to defend myself, but I didn't have a weapon. I called 911 with trembling hands and locked my bedroom door. The operator's voice sounded distant as I whispered what was happening. I could hear drawers opening, things being moved around. Whoever it was, they weren't in a hurry. By the time the police arrived, the intruder was long gone. They took my statement, looked around, and confirmed what I already knew. My laptop, monitor, and a few other things were missing. Weeks passed, and I kept checking the AirTag occasionally, just out of habit. It stayed offline. Then one night, it pinged again, this time from a popular bar downtown. I told myself to ignore it, but curiosity got the best of me. I drove there, parked across the street, and opened the app. The dot blinked right in front of me, like it was waiting. I pulled my hoodie over my head and walked closer, and then offline again. The anger that hit me was uncontrollable. I snapped. I started accusing random people in line, demanding to know if they had my wallet. It got ugly fast. Everyone stared at me like I was insane. A bouncer came over, grabbed my arm, and threw me out. I went home that night feeling humiliated and paranoid. I told myself that was the last time I'd let this thing control me. But then, it happened one more time. A coffee shop in the middle of the day. Same story. As soon as I got close, it vanished. A week later, I was getting ready for work when there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find 2 police officers standing there. They had a search warrant and an arrest warrant for me. Stalking and harassment. I thought it was a mistake, but they were serious. They told me they were looking for a journal hidden in one of my dresser drawers. I told them there wasn't one, but they didn't listen. They cuffed me and sat me in the back of the car while they searched. When they came out, they were holding a small black notebook. I'd never seen it before. They said it was filled with disturbing entries about my ex, Devon. Notes about her schedule, where she went, what she wore, what I supposedly wanted to do to her. My stomach turned. It was like reading the thoughts of a lunatic. But they said it was mine. The next few months were a nightmare. Devon had built a whole case against me. Photos, texts, everything. There were pictures of me at the gym, the park, the bar, every place the AirTag had led me. She claimed I'd been stalking her the entire time. She even had text messages from me, harassing her, threatening her. I hadn't sent any of them. The messages were detailed, full of things only someone close to her would know. I don't know how she faked them, but she did. She even claimed the stress made her crash her car. The police believed her. Everyone did. The worst part was that I couldn't prove a thing. The journal, the photos, the texts. It was airtight. My lawyer told me to plead guilty to avoid a longer sentence. What saved me wasn't luck. It was guilt. The guy Devon had been seeing went to the police and confessed everything. He said she gave him my AirTag, the same one Taylor stole at Zenon's party, and told him to lure me to different places, take pictures of me, and remove the battery when I got close. He thought it was a prank, until Devon started talking about planting evidence in my house. The text between them showed how she'd copied my house key while we were dating, and broke in later to steal my laptop, knowing my password. She used it to send those creepy messages to herself, planning to claim I sent them and deleted the proof. When she was caught, she confessed to everything. The charges were dropped, but my life was already wrecked. Friends gone, family distant, and my name dragged through the mud. Even now, I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again. The scariest part isn't what she did, it's how easy it was. One AirTag, one person with bad intentions, and your life can fall apart overnight. So tell me, have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even for a moment? Share your story below, and if you want to hear more true horror stories like this, check out the next video. Stay safe and trust your gut.